Gets away from Myers. Dubois. Now it's fed to the right point. Roy with a shot. Tip. Stopped by Lankin. Dubois the rebound scores. Pierre-Luc Dubois stretches his point streak to 5 games as he opens the scoring with just over 30 seconds to go in the first period.
Welcome back to Campbell vs. Gallo on TSN 6.9. One of the great moments from Pierre-Luc Dubois in a game last year against the Vancouver Canucks. I'm Mitch Gallo with Lucas Scott, and right now we welcome in member of the Washington Capitals, Pierre-Luc Dubois. Good afternoon, Luke.
Good afternoon, guys.
How you doing, man?
I'm good. Busy summer, but it's we're back in DC now, so everything's good.
And I know pretty active as far as your charity is concerned. Can you tell me a little bit about what's going on with your foundation?
Yeah, I have a foundation back in Bas-Saint-Laurent, Rimouski. We've had a few roadblocks the past 2 years, but it's something that has always been important to me. I took over from Vincent Lecavalier's foundation. Then COVID hit. We had the 1 year where we did the golf tournament and went well, and then we had a really big donation from the NHLPA with 80 equipments. So that will really be a big boost for us and help us kickstart this the foundation again. But it's something that I've always wanted to do, and that Vincent Lecavalier inspired me. So something that I'm really happy about.
Was he one of the players you idolized growing up?
Yeah, for sure. As a Quebecer, you see any Quebecer in the NHL do well, and it inspires you. Sorry. But like I said, going to his golf tournament, I was lucky enough to go to his golf tournament as a kid. So going there, and then meeting him and seeing him and, seeing how big he was and how nice and personable he was, it makes you want to root for somebody like that. So he was one of those guys definitely that I grew up looking to emulate.
Well, as a player from Quebec, you're somebody that, we're always cheering for and hoping has a success in the National Hockey League. And, there was a bit of a down year a couple years ago for you when you were with the LA Kings. You land in Washington last season and have a great bounce-back year. It was one of the better stories around the league. What was it about Washington that you fit so well last year?
Yeah, I think I owe it to a lot of people. First of all, the players here from day one welcomed me like a brother, and then the coaching staff after that. From the head coach to the assistants, even GM, president, everybody. The first phone calls I had really treated me like they really wanted me to succeed and were going to give me a chance to succeed. And then after that, just coming here, they just said, just be yourself. You don't need to do more. You don't need to do less. Be yourself. We'll give you a chance. I think it's a chance I didn't necessarily get in LA. And, I had, it was a tough time in a lot of ways, but here they just said, look, you've done it before. You've had good seasons in Columbus, good seasons in Winnipeg. Just do it here. So, it just made my life a lot easier to just do what I've always done my entire career.
I mean, you get dealt to the LA Kings and signed the big contract. Were you trying to do too much in that one season with LA?
No, I don't think so. I think I think sometimes in hockey there's stuff that you can control and there's stuff that you can't. I think the chances that I was maybe or the opportunities that I had in LA weren't the same that I got in Columbus or in Winnipeg or here in DC. I think I did at times as much as I could with what I had. Everybody had the expectations that I was going to have another season like I did in Winnipeg, but it's tough to have the same results when you don't have any of the same opportunities or half the opportunities. It's tough to reproduce that kind of result. So it was tough. And then, like I said, I come here to DC, I have the same opportunities and the same results. So sometimes it's complicated. It's stuff that you can't control, and it's stuff that's frustrating, but it's a team sport and you have to do your best for the team. And even if that means, being in a chair that you're not necessarily comfortable or you've never really been in. And that's kind of what I felt like happened in LA. But, everything happens for a reason. I learned a lot that year. I met some great people. And now that I'm here in DC, I think that year helped me a lot.
We're chatting with Pierre-Luc Dubois here on Campbell versus Gallo now. Pierre-Luc, I'm on the air 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. And in the summer of 2023, as you can imagine, your name came up a lot here on the radio station. Fans were calling and talking about you because everybody knew that you were likely to leave Winnipeg, and Montreal was clamoring for a big body and a Quebec player to come home and play. Now, you end up going to the LA Kings, and that's fine, and, you found a great spot in Washington, and everybody's happy for you. But that said, at that time, did you allow yourself to at least for a moment think about what it might be like to play for Montreal?
Yeah, I mean, I think every Quebecer, every Quebec kid, at one point in their life thinks about that. And, as a kid, I wasn't necessarily a Montreal fan, not because I didn't like them. It's just because my grandparents loved them. My whole family loved them. Everybody at school loved them. And I wanted to be a little different. So I was a Flyers fan and I was a Detroit fan. So, but, every Quebecer at some point thinks about it, whether it's as a kid at their draft, at some point in their career, one day if they're a UFA or something like that. But like I said, I think everything happens for a reason, and it could have been them, like it could have been any other team. It ended up LA was what I thought was the best place, and now it's DC. So I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason, and that summer was crazy with all the rumors and everybody saying talking about it. But at the end of the day, it happened and it was LA. So that was the end of the story there.
Pierre, what was it like to join Washington and be with Alex Ovechkin, and who obviously set the all-time goal record, but also for a Washington team who many before the season started had no idea or no faith in you guys being able to be at the top of the Metro Division and at the top of the East?
Yeah, I mean, I could probably write a book about last year's season. I could probably write a book about just Ovi last year, and then I could write a second book about the season and about everything. I think, we made a lot of there's a lot of talk about the aging core of the Capitals and all that, and there's a lot of talk and all the moves we made with. I think we made 6 or 7 moves, or 6 or 7 or 8 new guys on the team. But I think that the organization did a really good job and really pinpointing good players, but also good people that would fit in perfectly here. And guys like Ovi, Carlson, Wilson, Dowd, laying the foundation, the groundwork for what this organization's about and what the culture is here. And then you have these new guys that come up, that come in and play and fit in. And I think everything was just perfect about it last year. And then on top of that, you're chasing Ovi's goal record. Breaks his leg, comes back, and people still think, okay, he's not going to beat it this year. It'll be next year because, he just came back from a broken leg and then ends up scoring, I think, 44 in 60-something games. It's just pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, a lot of fun last year. That's probably the most fun I've had in my career. Getting to know everybody, feeling at home here in DC. Feeling the love from the fans in the city and everything. So you put all that together, and it's just really a storybook season.
Talk about having fun. What was it like participating in playoff games at the Bell Center?
Yeah, that was really cool. You can't control who you're going to play, but I mean, probably 60 games in, I was talking to David Savard, and we talk a lot, and we were saying how cool would it be if we could play against each other in the playoffs. He knew that was probably going to be his last season. So, if we could play against each other, and obviously I want to win, he wanted to win, but at least play against each other. And, especially at the Bell Center in Montreal. So that was a great experience. My family got to come, my friends got to come, they got to experience it too. And, that's definitely one of the coolest experiences I've had in my career.
What was going through your mind, Pierre-Luc, when Josh Anderson and Tom Wilson and their fight spilled onto the bench?
Yeah, I mean, I was in like the middle of the initial scrum, and I thought, all right, this is probably the peak of this scrum. And then I heard the fans going nuts, and then I kind of just looked over my shoulder and I saw that happening, and then I think everybody on the ice just kind of froze and just looked to see what was going on over there. My dad was at the game, and he went to the bathroom like 30 seconds before the scrum started, and he's like, I was in the bathroom and all I could hear was the fans going nuts, and he's like, what like what happened? Like, the Timbits that go on the ice, they scored a big goal or something? Like, what's going on? So, no, that was a really cool moment in the series. Obviously the fans loved it, but, that's part of hockey.
Was that somebody you looked at? I'm talking about Tom Wilson when you got to Washington, and you look at your size, your scoring ability, the fact that you can play physical, and you see Tom Wilson who does maybe that and the combination of those things better than anybody else, and look at it and say, you know what, get some pointers from him maybe, and say this is the kind of player that I want to play like.
Maybe in some ways. I think Tom's just so unique. He's one of a kind, really. When you think about guys like that in our league, he's the only one that comes to mind. I mean, Josh Anderson's a really good player. I played with him in Columbus. He plays a heavy game too. He's fast. He can hit. He can fight. He can do a little bit of everything. But I think Tom is just in a category of his own. And he's a really good player. He skates. He makes plays. And then obviously everybody sees the hits and the fights and all that. But playing with him, has been, and getting to know him as a person too, have been two really fun things that happened last year. I thought we played really well together from day one of training camp, and hopefully we have another good season like we did last year.
Pierre, obviously, you guys beat the Montreal Canadiens in the first round of the playoffs, and then you go up against the division rival in Carolina and unfortunately lose. What kind of went wrong for you guys in that series?
Yeah, I think a lot of times in the series, there's a lot of ways you can lose a series, but when you're playing against good teams, like once you make it to the top 8 teams in the league, it's so close. The gap between teams oftentimes is so close, and the difference between a win and a loss is it could be a post. And I think I thought we played well. I thought we played well enough to win, and that's the thing. One year in Columbus when we swept Tampa and we lost to Boston in the second round, we played well enough to beat Boston. It's just Boston also played well enough to win. So I think Carolina, they're a good team. They play a unique way. They're hard to play against, and in the season we played well against them, and in the playoffs I thought we played well. I mean, I don't think we played poorly. I just think that it just didn't go our way, and they're a good team. They I'm sure they for sure thought they deserved to win, and you can't argue that either. So I think at times that's just how it goes. It's not you're not going to win the cup by being lucky. You're not going to win 4 rounds just by being lucky, but sometimes you need that extra bounce where, it's a pass that hops over a stick, could have been a goal, and then if it's a goal, it's 1-1 instead of 1-0, and then it goes to 2-0 and it's game over. So sometimes it's that simple. That the explanation is that simple, and I think last year it was kind of that. They played well, but sometimes you just don't win.
Couple more quick ones for you, Pierre-Luc, and we appreciate your time. And I want to talk a little bit about the Washington Capitals. I'm curious, actually, going into this season, if you guys, I don't know if how loud you are in the room, how much chirping you like to do, who the louder guys are, but I think you guys are going to give OV an earful that it might be his last year.
I think we're all hoping it isn't. The impact that he has on the ice is obvious. Scoring, I think it's 44 and 60-something games. That's obvious. But the impact that he has in the dressing room, the impact that he has on an off day on the road, or on a practice day on a Tuesday in mid-January when guys are a little tired and banged up, and he'll be 40 this year. I think he'll be his 21st season.
Yep.
And he'll be one of the first guys showing up, huge smile on his face, making jokes, on the ice, having a good practice, but also making jokes, scoring a goal, celebrating, like those little things that, obviously everybody sees the goals and everything, but that impact too is huge on our team. So hopefully it isn't his last. I don't know. I'd love to play with him. Like I said, I could write a book about one season, so I can't imagine 2. So, hopefully it's not his last season with us.
And what about these young guys coming in? And to add that to some of the guys you have, like yourself and Wilson, neither are fun to play against. Now you add Ryan Leonard to the mix. Protas was a big factor last year. Maybe Protas' brother as well coming in. Hendrix Lapierre. Like, you guys are going to be a handful.
Yeah, that's a plan. I don't know if a lot of people know Protest's brother. He's also 6'6". He also has the reach of, Zdeno Chara, and he's also very skilled. So that'll be fun. We always joke that there's a third brother hiding somewhere that we just don't know about yet. But I mean, yeah, I think the organization's done a good job of drafting well and developing well. You look at, like you mentioned, Ryan Leonard, who's I think is going to be a great player, and young guys, it always takes a little time to adapt, but when you have the base of you're a hard worker and you compete and you're really a competitive player like Lenny is, the adaptation makes it a lot easier. Even if you're not scoring or assists and stuff like that isn't going too well or points wise, he's such a talented but a competing player. And works so hard. Lappy is the same thing. I'm sure he's going to come in and have a good season for us. So that the new generation of guys coming in for this organization, I think is going to help a lot. And there's a lot of guys that we haven't mentioned that, Andrew Costell almost made our team last year, went back to junior, but he was the last guy cut, I'm pretty sure, from camp. So we have a lot of good players coming up, and the guys like Carlson and Wilson and Ovi, the culture that they set here, those guys will come in and just have to continue that culture, and that's what's fun about being a Capital right now.
Yeah, have you been able to see Lane Hutson's brother?
No, yeah, he's another one. No, but I heard training camp this year, 3-on-3 was something to see. So I'm excited to see him on the ice one day.
Hey, Pierre-Luc, thanks so much for taking the time, extended time here to join us. I really appreciate it, and all the best in the upcoming season and with your charity.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.